So let's just locate the dantian. So it's pretty much on, if you had like a tray here or something settled on your legs, then where it crosses over in the middle. Gently with the mind, just get a figure of 8 going around the legs that passes through this point. So it's coming out of the back around this leg. Quite vague. So don't use the mind too literally. We're not trying to create something with the mind. We're just trying to wake the mind up to something that's already there. And then just the hands into prayer posture. And a similar thing here. So a figure of 8 coming up over the shoulder, down the arm, back up, down this shoulder. Same thing, but now with the backs of the hands on each other. So it's often easier to feel It's more like a true figure of eight. So again, it's up here. So this is one of the circles, and then this is the other one. The root of the thing is your solar plexus. When we're like normal prayer posture, it's very much the heart. This is like it's coming up from the solar plexus. Feeling for the solar plexus and the point on the back just opposite it. And now let's just link the fingers. Pressing the hands out, palms facing out. Pushing that solar plexus point on your back as far back as you can. This will tend to bring the eyes looking down. And then keeping the arms quite straight, bring them up above the head. You're having to straighten the spine. Keep your attention on that point on the spine opposite the solar plexus. Sway a little bit to get increased stretch. Separate the hands and just bring them down to the side, but with the palms still pulled at the wrists, so the palms facing out. Trying to relax the shoulders down into the arms, into the hands. So it'll hurt. It's a sort of tingly pain that comes from the stretch in the muscles and tendons. Keep your mind with that point on the spine. We want the spine to drop down from that point and also to rise up from that point. So it's like the middle of the spine. So the arms are very much on the upward part. And then just bring the hands round to the front. Link the fingers together again. And then just bring the hands in, touching the chest. And then again, out, pushing the mid-spine back. letting the spine bow. And then straightening the spine again to bring the arms up above the head. Tipping a little bit just to get the stretch. And then just twist a few times. Let the range build up slowly. And then just the hands round to the front again. So just do one more, yeah? So fingers together. And then hands in. Now just feel that point on the back. So it's opposite this point here. So that's the point I want to push backwards to get my hands to go forwards. And then bringing that point in, arms up above the head. And just a few tips again. So this is stretching the spine up from that point on the back. And it's also allowing what's beneath that point to slip down. And then separating the hands. And now this time just turning the head. So looking at the back of one hand and then turning to look at the back of the other. Feel this movement of the head releasing the chest a little bit. And also helping the shoulders relax. and then just back. Bring the arms up, cupping each elbow. Okay, so we want to do this, but with the arms behind. So now just put the arms behind. You need a bit of pulling and twisting. So the shoulders have to pull back, shoulder blades pulling together. So now your arms are crossing pretty much at that point on the spine. It's a bit like using the stick on the back, pulling that point in my spine forwards, encouraging what's above it to rear up and what's beneath it to sink down. So the solar plexus is very much related, if not part of the lower heart, the same as the throat is very much part of the thymus, the upper heart. And then just releasing the arms. So again, just locate the dantian. And then let's just feel these points. So first the heart. So just the fingers lightly So just feel the deep heart. So it's almost the xiphoid cartilage beneath the sternum. So the dip in the chest. And then just feel the solar plexus. So it's not much beneath it. So these 2 points are almost the same. And then feel the thymus. So it's like the ridge on the sternum, really. Feel the throat point, which is just in that notch above the sternum. So again, they're not far apart. Great exercise for the thymus is just to stand and declaim heroic poetry. Declaim an epic. And of course, the best is Homer. Even in English, it reads better than most English poetry. But I used to use Whitman's Song of Myself, as it lends itself to oration, declamation. Feel the one in the head. Feel the dip above the bridge of the nose. So they call it the nasal root, I think. So just above there, so between the eyebrows, there's a ridge, and then just on top of that ridge, that's the third eye. Take the hand off the down chair and just bring it around to the back of the head. So where the neck comes up into the skull, there's a sort of bump, and you can sort of lift the head from there. So what we'd like is that these 2 points are in a horizontal line. So the head has to be tipped forward quite a bit. The chin has to be really tucked in. The eyes are sort of looking down. And then just slowly bring both fingers up the crown of the head, so that when your head's in the right position, it's the topmost point. Hands down to the knees. So just a really light touch. So put the hands on the knees but like you're trying to have minimal pressure. Feel the movement, the play, like the hands are just very gently moving. The lightness of the touch is allowing them to move a little bit. And it's moving the legs. So the bones start to feel as though they're becoming a little bit rubbery. Feel that point on the spine, the solar plexus point. It's as though someone's holding the spine, like a big hand is wrapped around it, gently squeezing, forcing what's beneath it to drop and what's above it to rise up. Keep the mind in that point on the back. So just find it. Feeling that when I press in this point on my back opposite the solar plexus, the thymus is thrust up and out, and the tail goes down and back. So the pressure here will arch my spine. We just want to change the posture a little bit, really. Because the posture we had, this thing of the bum in and this sense that it's rearing up from here, it's just a little bit remote. It's a little bit pulled back. I'm sort of pulling myself in. I really want to be coming out into the world. And then from there, I can withdraw and yield. So this real sense that there's something dropping down from this point. So civilization tends to be anal retentive. We all tend to be fussy and fastidious and over tidy, over clean, really, over hygienic. So tight-assed. We're holding on to our shit, literally and also metaphorically. Repressed. So here it's very much like you're going to have a shit. It's like something is just letting go from here and you're just dropping down. But we want to make sure that the down is also releasing upwards above that point in the back. Really arch the back now. You're pulling the head back, but you're also sticking your tail right out. So this will tend to drop the elbows. This is like the attacking spiral. Feel that point in the back that we've been working on and just draw it backwards. And that will tend to bring the arms in to ward off. The tail will come under a little bit and the head will want to come over. So now I have a bowed spine. And then I can bring that point in and allow my tail to really extend down and back, and my head to extend back, and this to feel like it's wanting to burst out. Like there's something behind your sternum that wants to just break free. And this will tend to bring you onto the front of the foot more. So you can bring the heels up as well to give it a little bit of intensity. Just keep it relaxed around the sacrum. And then feel that point in the back again, opposite the solar plexus, and just draw it back and bring the arms in to ward off. And this will bring you into the heels. The heels will want to go out like this. And then again, just solar plexus comes forwards. My elbows drop, and you can have the hands like this. And then you really feel an upward. My tail is releasing backwards. Pulling that point back. And now let's just get into like the neutral point. So the point between those two extremes, which will feel we're sticking the bum out a bit because we're so used to pulling it in too much. So it has to really relax and release. The real sense that something is extending out of the spine, just along the line of the spine, but outwards. So here we're the gatherer. You think of the hunter-gatherer. Moving from leg to leg. So imagine those women that spend all day picking things from the ground, just how immensely strong their backs must be. And then just getting that figure of eight. Remember when we were sitting like this, and we had this figure of eight looping like this around the arms. So now just a much bigger one, sending the arm up. And then as you come into this leg, it's like it's trying to scoop underneath the foot. And then this one goes up. Keep the mind on this point. It can vary where it is on the spine, but it's definitely above the min meng. What's beneath that point really wants to go down. Shouldn't be a problem to get right down. If you're prepared to just release the lower back. If we're keeping it in, then for me, it's just repression. keeping that feeling. And now just the first warm-up exercise, so just turning. There's a hand gripping your spine at that point and just gently squeezing. And then what's above it can just freely rise and come out. And what's beneath it can freely sink and come out. Should be a real sense of liberation, freedom, which is the opposite of repression. So there's those two anal fixations, the anal retentive, where the child, for whatever reasons, holds on to its shit, either because it's afraid of messing itself and getting told off, or it's imposing some sort of controlling system upon the parents that are anxious for it to do its business in the potty. And then you've got the anal expulsive. So the child that's just fascinated by shit and is just crapping in his pants all the time. So the anal retentive would be the civilized, and the anal expulsive would be the barbaric. So just very different uses of the mind and the energy. We'd just like to be a little bit more barbaric. And then let's just go into the second one. So when you let your energy out, it's really tiring. This is what fighters always say. In a fight, just for a few seconds, you'll be out of breath and you'll be left completely drained, which is why these heavyweight boxers that go for 12 rounds They're just monsters. I used to wonder why, when we were working at like a pitch of intensity, me and John, he'd often get really out of breath. He'd be panting, even though he was immensely fit. It's because when your energy's charged up, there's a lot being used, and it really does raise everything in your body. Sinking down. So feel this point here on your back. You're just trying to just let go from there, so what's beneath it can just fall. So we're not sort of building ourselves up from here so much as this is just a central point from which everything beneath it just drops, and everything above it can then rise up. And what's beneath it is much bigger because it includes the legs. So this is quite sort of slight, really. So this real sense that you can just get right down. But you have to stick your bum out. I don't really call it sticking the bum. Sticking your bum out would be this, would be straightening the legs to relieve them, which would produce a net going back of this point here. I'm sinking down. I'm just allowing my hips to roll this way a little bit so that the angle of my sacrum is backwards. And then I really want to just release the tail so the tail can just spring back like this, almost like a squirrel's tail that rises up its back. And the test is, does it make this happen? Does it make you more capable? Do you have more to offer? Okay, now let's just try the standing. Pressing, really, what we used to call pressing. But without the wall, we don't really need the wall, but do it sideways on so that you can see your posture. You're leaning forwards just a little. You don't have to lean forwards a lot, because remember, we want this part to be rearing upwards, but we want this part to be extending back into the back leg. Feel this point in the spine. If anything, this point should come inwards and not press outwards. Our repression will tend to get this point back of the other vertebra. Settle into it. So you can either be in a push posture or you can be in a press posture. Feel this point releasing down. Feels like my tail is extending down my back leg, but very much my front leg that's supporting my weight. And then the other side. And the more you can keep the mind here and release from here, from the point in the back, the more you'll tend to shake. The lower body will shake with the ground and the upper body will tend to shake. But they're not the same shake. They can be like different frequencies. Just think Yong Cheng Fu. Let's try one more on the other side. So maybe now with the hands in different positions. So either and the other side. The longer you hold it, the more intense it becomes, the more you shake. A limber jog, just to loosen everything up a bit. Try and keep that mind in the same place. back into our posture, which should feel really different from how we normally are. So I would normally be like this. Yeah, I'd have brought this forwards so that it was over my legs. Now I just let it go behind and just angle my sacrum back and just get a real sense of just dropping down into the legs. Let's just try that warrior pose. So again, from the side, so you can see your posture. This is going to be even more extreme, so we won't hold it very long. So 1 foot forwards. Feel this point. And then just bringing the arms up and pulling the head back, so you're looking up. Down. Feet the other way. Locate this point. Going backwards and forwards, this exercise here. So now just feeling the back foot. So we can't be too long in our step. So when I come forwards, it's very similar to what we've just been doing. My tail is trying to extend down my back leg. My upper back is rearing up like this, and my push is forwards, but with a sense of upwards. Now, this is the one we want to look at. So I go back and I lean forwards. Maybe let's just use both hands. It's like a back foot version of what we were just doing. But I want this feeling here. Imagine young Cheng Fu when he's in lifting hands. So he's very much like this, isn't he? You're using the front leg to really drive yourself into the back leg. So I get a real sense that my spine is behind my foot. It really hurts, which is great. And then come forwards. This is very much the energy from the front foot driving up through the body and into the opposite hand. I'm using my back leg here to push myself into the front foot to get more of a thrust coming up. And then I go back. And the same thing here, really. I'm using the front leg to really push myself back. You can't have the feet too far apart, otherwise you can't get into the back foot properly. And then forwards. Like in the form where we go from press to push in grass sparrows toe. Let's get into press posture here. And then you're just going back. I'm using my front leg to drive myself back and down, getting ready for the push. And then I just drive forwards and push. And again into press. Now imagine you pressed someone. That started you moving backwards. You separate the hands. You really get down into that back leg. Like you're trying to get underneath someone, which is what you're doing. You know, you're uprooting them, you're getting underneath them. And then when you come forwards and rise up, they will come up. So I pressed forwards, that starts me moving back. And then I just sink down into the back leg and forwards. It just takes a bit of practice because we're just so not used to working like this. I'm going down, I'm getting underneath, and then I can come forwards. And remember, when you're tempted to rise up and become top heavy, just keep what's beneath this point sinking down. Let's just try a few with the other foot forwards. So I come forwards to press, or you can just stay and push. And then I just sink back. And forwards. Now one more. Back. So the energy in the spirit is just really intense and right on the surface, almost like it's bursting out of you already. So it's almost like there's no form. Form is what appears when you sort of pull back and just allow these shapes to take their place, but it's like everything is being tumbled over. As soon as a form establishes itself, you've ruined it, you've run over it. A bit like the sea. Went to the sea yesterday, you know, the waves coming in and just washing the slate clean. And then I was walking on the sand, and then the next wave coming and just washing it clean. So no chance for anything to become stiff and too still, too stagnant, too set, too solid. So this is difficult. Just somehow, how do I straighten these legs without ruin everything? If I can keep my mind here, that's about as much design, as much self-control that we have. Just having the mind in the point about which I cohere. This point here, it's all well and good when you're sitting, when you're still, but if you're charging around, really busy and active, then you're going to be constructed from higher up. Go for a run, or watch a person that's running really well. You can just see that this is everything down from here is just in the legs, and everything up from here is just reaching for the heavens. Feel how good it feels to have broken the rules. If we were used to working like that and suddenly we discovered bum in, it would be just as exhilarating. A change is as good as a rest.